Hi everyone. Hello, welcome. Really glad you're here with us on this super sunny morning already. I am just going to wait for folk to filter in, and while I do, I will just do some quick introductions. So, hi, I'm Lucy, COO at Strive, and we run these sessions because the conversations that genuinely matter at work are often the ones we're least likely to have. And today we're definitely having one of those. While we're waiting for a few more people to join, please do say hello in the chat. Let us know your name, what organisation you're tuning in from, and maybe what brought you here today. Please do make sure your chat is set to everyone so we can all connect. Mine is currently not. There should be in the little two message feature, there'll be a little blue box. Just toggle that to everyone. These sessions are always better when we truly spend it with each other too. So don't be shy. Do use it, and yeah, can't wait to see all those messages pop in. Before we get started, just a few quick things. Today's session is being recorded, so we'll send out the link afterwards so you can all revisit everything. And I know that there are a few things in here that are well worth going back over. Please use the chat throughout. Like I said, reactions, questions, things you're nodding along to. We really want this to feel like a conversation today, not a lecture. Not only are we here to help, but the people joining us today will have answers too. So make use of everyone that's joined us for this webinar. We'll also have some dedicated time at the end for a bit of a Q&A. So if something bigger does pop up, pop it in the Q&A tab at the bottom. There should be a little Q&A tab, and we'll make sure that we get to it at the end. The Q&A, you can also ask anonymous questions. So if you feel more comfortable doing that, feel free. And the earlier you get in your questions, the more likely it is to be reached because it will be at the top of our list. Hello, everyone. Oh, it's so nice seeing where everyone's coming from. Norwich, we've got someone from Turley, and I know they're all over. Scottish Forestry. I was in one of your forests actually earlier in the year. Beautiful. Hi, everyone, and hi, Louise. Lovely to see you too. So, today's topic, we talk a lot about employee well-being. We talk significantly less about the well-being of the people responsible for it. HR professionals and leaders are usually the people everyone else turns to. We're doing a lot about managing change. We're doing a lot of holding difficult conversations. We're pulling in that emotional weight from the rest of the organization. We're doing it quietly. We're doing it a lot. And we're often doing it when no one else is really asking how we're doing either. And our guest, Gemma Ellison, is a founder of Heart Leadership, a consultancy built around this idea that the best leaders aren't always the ones that have got maybe the sharpest strategies, but the ones that are brave enough to lead in a way that's genuinely really human. Jem is a former solicitor turned leadership culture specialist, and she spent years helping leaders kind of move away from this corporate playbook and build something that's really sustainable for themselves and for the organizations they're in. She's also the founder of Culture Camp, which we were talking about just before we joined, which if you haven't been, go, honestly. I can see a few folk in this webinar today that I've definitely seen at culture camps before. So give a shout out to Culture Camp in the chat if you want to add to my praise. But honestly, it is one of the best events I've been to in a very, very long time. We will send around information, waiting lists, etc., in the follow-up afterwards. There's one coming up in Guernsey in October, which we can't wait for. Stripe will be there, and we're very excited to see a lot of the Guernsey folk in the webinar today, and we can't wait to see you all in October. And then there is another one on the 18th of March at Chester Zoo, which is super exciting. So definitely keep an eye out for those. And I'll also say before I finally let Jem speak, that I have actually done a version of this session myself as part of the Heart Leaders course, and it genuinely changed things for me. Jem has this like impeccable way of timing things for me, and this session came about at just the right time. And it's genuinely changed the way I treat myself, the way I manage my day, the way I lead, and the way I kind of prioritize how I do things for myself and for my team. So I'm not just here as host today, I'm here as someone who's already sat a little bit about through what you're about to be sitting through, and I got so much out of it, so much so that I knew I had to bring it to all of you. So Jem, all yours.
Thanks, Lucy. Thank you for the kind words there, and thank you everyone who's been to Culture Camp. Good to see you all on here today. Okay, this is going to be a little bit different than what you might find as a normal webinar, okay? Because there's going to be some real reflection points for you. You've taken some time out of your busy, very, very hot Tuesday morning to spend with us. So, as always, with anything that I do, I want you to be able to take things away, okay? So, there'll be moments here when I'm going to ask you to pause and think, and there'll be a couple of exercises for you to go through. So, let's dive in. Okay, so, all right, Lucy, have you got those slides there? All right, good stuff. Okay, so this is about leading yourself first. Now, this is a bit of a strange topic, but actually, we were in Guernsey last week, and pretty much every conversation that we had revolved around leading yourself first in one way, shape, in some sort of way. But actually, there's lots going, around talking about servant leadership and how we have to be there for everybody else all the time. So what I want you to leave with today is actually you have to look after yourself first before doing that. And we'll think about that in a few different ways. So this is the thing that we're starting. Surely this idea of leading yourself first is a bit selfish, isn't it? And actually, leading yourself first is something that I wouldn't have subscribed to probably even 18 months ago, to be honest. I've been on a journey with this kind of work, but now I can't stop talking about it. So often again, we think that we have to look after everybody else, particularly if we work in the people space. Everyone needs to take a bit from us all the time. And sometimes our own self leadership is what gets left to the bottom of the list. Actually, the list that's never ending. So people often think this is a bit of a selfish endeavor. It isn't, okay? And what hopefully you leave here today with thinking is the most important thing that you can do. I'm a storyteller, okay, so I'm going to ask you to indulge me for a second about why I'm talking about this. So, as Lucy mentioned, I'm a former solicitor. Normally, I don't say former, I say recovering because actually, it was a very, very heavy job. I was a child protection lawyer, and to be completely honest, I didn't leave because I didn't love it. I loved it too much. I was always on. I was available relentlessly for my clients all the time, and it impacted my health. So I have ADHD as well, and a lot of the feelings that I experience are very big feelings. So as a lawyer, I had two periods of burnout, and it felt like essentially I couldn't see it coming. It felt like I'd just fallen off a cliff twice and had to take time away from work. Now this is someone who's been raised, was raised by a mum who we weren't allowed to have a day in bed if we were ill. It was none of that was allowed in our world. So actually admitting that I was struggling was a really difficult thing to do. So this is very real. Now, I now run Heart Leadership. I've been running that for a few years now with Hettel. And taking care of myself has not always come easy to me. So I'm not sitting here sort of preaching to you saying I'm perfect in this space, because a couple of weeks ago was a stark reminder for me that I'm really not perfect in this space. So Lucy mentioned Culture Camp. And Culture Camps, we just run our second Culture Camp. It was amazing. LinkedIn on the couple of days after was really going off. People were excited. It was great. I was excited. Let's be honest, my ego took a little bit of an inflation point as well. And we loved it. So when that happens to me, when I'm very excited, I need to lead myself first more than ever. So leading yourself first isn't just about thinking about regulating yourself when things are really hard and stressful, but also the opposite. If you're someone like me who's got lots of energy and excitement, it also comes in. So let me tell you what happened after Culture Camp. So Friday morning, let's be honest, slightly hungover, but my brain wouldn't stop. It was on fire all day. Same on Saturday and Sunday. I tricked Hettle and I was like, I'm gonna put the dogs today because I knew she'd tell me off for working. I worked all day from the second I woke up to the second we went to sleep. Same on Sunday, and then I went into delivering three big workshops on the Monday. So again, I thought it was great. I was buzzed. I was feeling all excited. It was all good. So obviously work is seems to be a very acceptable addiction, if I'm honest, if I'd go that far. And I didn't switch off at all weekend, and probably the week leading up to it as well. It's a big event in our calendar. So I was sitting on the bus going to my sister's, and I have epilepsy, which is a bit of a context to this. And I remember texting Het and Lois and saying, I'm feeling very like ADHD right now. And what I meant was my mind was racing, and it felt like a very physical thing. A couple of minutes later, two seizures out of the blue. I say out of the blue, it wasn't actually. Because if I map it back, I didn't leave myself first at all in that situation. And it was a big reminder for me that actually sometimes any big feelings, big emotions, big events, you have to manage yourself, you have to lead yourself first. So during that time, my non negotiables went out the window. I didn't go for a walk. I didn't drink enough water. I didn't eat properly. I was relentlessly working. And my body had to say to me, sorry, mate, let's hit the pause button here. So actually, I have to practice this every single day. And it's not easy when I'm running a business, when I've got a family life, when I've got all those different things. So I'm talking about this from a place of someone who needs to work on this all the time. And why are we talking about this? Because actually, HR, people who are in the people space, anyone who cares about well-being or looks after that in their organisations are really feeling it too. And often we come at the bottom of our own lists. Um, if anyone hasn't had Stripe's big HR check-in report, get a copy. I'm sure Lucy will send it round after the webinar. But there was some data here that I found really interesting and actually quite painful to read. 85% of HR leaders feel burnt out at least sometimes. 45% of them are often or always burnt out. That is fascinating because HR have to do some of the most important jobs in an organisation. And if we're feeling burnt out and we have to have a redundancy conversation, or we have to dismiss somebody, or we have to be the person that someone's coming to when they're bereaved or when they've had a diagnosis, how can we be the best version of ourselves if we're constantly feeling burnt out? How can we be of service to that person if we're not okay ourselves, if we're not steady ourselves? But why are we feeling this way? There's a few different reasons, I think. And first of all, we're the shock absorbers, aren't we? So the emotional landing pad for the organisation. We might absorb the fear and the stress of our employees. And also, we're dealing with some pretty traumatic stuff sometimes. For example, again, how are we dealing with having to dismiss somebody? How are we feeling with having to deal with some misconduct in the workplace? Or having to be the person someone's sitting there talking about a recent diagnosis or bereavement too. So we are having to go through those things all of the time, and it's hard. The second thing is the middle trap. I don't know if anyone feels this, but sometimes we have quite unclear authority or very high accountability. So whatever comes up in the workplace, HR will sort that out. People and culture will deal with that because obviously, in fact, our businesses are people focused. But there is this middle trap that we seem to be caught in sometimes, which is a difficult place to be. The next thing, I'm sure you can all relate to this reactive mode and always being on all the time. What happened? Well, I remember starting work as a lawyer and we used to send letters and people would respond in a week after the letter had arrived. Now it is relentless communication. And because our people work means more to people than it used to, of course, we often look to our workplaces for all things now. There's a responsibility on us because dealing with people. So we have to be on all the time. And that comes obviously at a very personal expense. But then and this is what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so personal self-care. We're expected to be experts on wellness. Every time a new thing comes out, a new initiative, a new concept to talk about, HR can do that. HR can sort that out. So HR can be our wellness experts. But actually, are we practicing what we preach? Are we having the actual time to laugh at ourselves? I would argue that we're not having that time. So this paradox is going to be what we're going to tackle today in this session, and why I think, and hopefully you leave the session thinking it's so important to lead yourself first. So this stopped me in my tracks when I sort of read this and started thinking about this. The quality of your leadership is limited by the quality of your thinking. This is a quote from Ryan Holiday, should have been referenced there, sorry. And the quality of your thinking is shaped by how well you lead yourself. Um, and in a world where we are constantly on, there are a million tabs open in our brain. Naomi, who spoke at our last culture camp, talks about AI brain fry. The quality of our thinking, in my opinion, is being damaged by the fact that we are constantly doing other things and we are not looking after ourselves. So the quality of our thinking is shaped by our self-leadership. So I want you to just have a little think, maybe just stop and reflect. And I'm going to ask Lucy to think about this question as well. So when it comes to leading yourself first, what does that even mean to you? And if you had to rate yourself today on a scale of 1 to 10, how often would you say you do lead yourself well? So Lucy, have you got any thoughts on this?
I do. I've had a bit of a head start. Um, I when you asked me this question, there was three things that kind of came in. For me, sound, mind, and body. So like, do I feel good in my body? Do I feel good in my mind? Do I have a clear head? Was something that came in. And have I had time for my learning and development? Those were the things that kind of really popped up first. Um, at the moment, I would say I'm about a five on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm doing the best, but I you will know because I often send you voice notes. I am getting out in the morning, getting my sunshine and getting my walk, and I am getting to the gym. So those first sound mind, sound body, clear head, that all kind of helps me with that. But the learning and development has very much been pushed down the
Okay.
list. How's everyone doing in the chat? What are we seeing from that question for you guys? What about you, Jem?
Leading same clarity, regulation, which we'll talk about today. Regulation is again as someone who's neurodivergent. I didn't really understand the importance of regulation until relatively recently, and now it's a bit of an obsession. So leading myself first means giving myself time. When I wake up in the morning now, I'm thinking, where in my day can I get out for a walk and planning around that, where it used to be say, nice to have. It also looks to me like making sure I'm regulated, making sure I've had enough water, making sure I can be clear. And I reckon, as of a couple of weeks ago, if it was this was Culture Camp week, I'd have said it was a one. But I've had a weekend off this weekend, so I'm feeling a solid eight at the moment, which is good. I can't. So in terms of the chat, what's anyone saying there, Lucy? Have you got any feedback in the chat?
Yeah, so Zoe's saying it means putting on oxygen mask before anyone else. However,
Yeah,
this is rarely possible, both personally and in work. So she's on about a four. And then Julie said, I have really good intentions about self-leadership, and I'm usually fairly good, maybe a seven, but it's amazingly easy to slip to old habits. And I know I actually wrote something down from Sharon when we did this leadership session, who said a settled nervous system, which
yeah,
really kind of resonated with what you said there.
yeah.
Sonia said recently joined the gym for my self-care, so I'd say a seven. That's amazing.
Nicely done.
Yeah, the gym is such a good place for that. Katie said time to stand back and think, but can easily be eroded. Yeah, that time and space is a
It is.
huge one.
It is definitely. All right, well let's have a little think about what we might do about that. So I'm going to ask you to consider this as a group. Again, you can either put it in the chat or personal reflection is fine. But I want to put to you that you are famous in somebody else's house. Somebody is going home each evening and talking about you. Someone's kids will know your name and they will know how you make the people that are important in their life feel. Okay, so there was a really interesting bit of data that came out, which was 69% of people say that their manager has a bigger impact on their mental health than anybody else in their lives, including their partner, including medical professionals. And then also 82% of managers have never had any training. So I think it's a really interesting bit of data. But you're famous in someone else's house, and I want you to reflect on this. And again, you can come back to the recording if you want to. But what do you want to be famous for? What do you want people to say about you? What would you want them to think? So for me, I want people to think I care, because I do quite often too much. I'm a very deeply caring person. So even back when I was a child protection lawyer, even if I couldn't get someone's kids back for them, I wanted them to know that I gave it a good go because actually I cared about what happens with them. So there's one of the things for me. Another one is I want people to think I'm approachable, I'm interested, I'm curious. So those are some of the things. Lucy, have you got any answers for this?
Yeah, ours is similar but a little different. So I said kindness is one, approaching everyone with kindness. I think that's something that I work on a lot as well. And I actually wrote down creativity too, because I was thinking when you asked this question, I was thinking about who I admire, who's famous. And a lot of the people that I admire have that creative streak that runs through them. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that I am really proud of that I have in me as well. So I'd hope that comes through. But yeah, those are
Good
my two big
stuff. Good
ones.
stuff. So again, hold that if everyone's got it. So hopefully you're sitting there with your pens posed. It's going to be a bit of an exercise now. So I wonder if there's a gap between your intention and your reality. Okay, so when we're thinking about what we want to be famous for, what we want to be known for, I wonder to what extent we actually are. If I went and asked all of your teams today, and I knew what you want to be famous for, is that the reality? I wonder what they'd say. Okay, often there is a gap, and it's not an intentional gap, but it's because we drift. Okay, it's because we haven't got the time. It's because our self care, our prioritization of feeling clear and steady is often something that comes at the bottom of the list. It's something that when a meeting comes in, when a phone call comes in, we think, do you know what? I can't get out for that walk. I can't prioritize me. So I'm going to go and serve others instead. So there is often a gap between intention and reality. And I want to take you through a very quick exercise, and I'll shoot through this, but it's one I would recommend that you come back to because it's quite an impactful exercise. Okay, so we're calling this drift and return. All right, so it's got many guises. This is our interpretation of an exercise that has been banded around a lot. But this is the home base. This is where you are thinking about what you're going to be famous for. Okay, so I want you to think about what is the version of you that you want to bring into the room. When you're leading yourself well, what do people actually experience in your presence? Okay, and what you want to be known for, not the title, but the feeling. Okay, so what do you want people to feel when they're around you? Lucy and I have just given you an example there. We talked about creativity, kindness, approachability, care. These are some of the big things that we want to be known for. All right, so we know that we've just done that exercise, and now some things get in the way of it. All right, so some things take you off course. All right, and there's loads of things there. So the stuff that pulls you off course, it could be pressure, it could be old stories you're telling yourself. It could be tiredness. Big one for me. I am not a great person when I'm tired. And last night I had a Labrador panting down my ear because she was too hot, so I haven't had the amount of sleep I need. It could be the need to be right. It could be the fear of being found out, the imposter syndrome that we get. I want you to name it. What are the things that take you off course? It could be stuff in your internal world, inside your mind. Again, the imposter syndrome. It could be physical things, tiredness, pressure, a mountain inbox. So I want you to think about what are the things that take you off course. Lucy, anything for you here?
Quite similar. So I had energy again, lack of confidence, and people pleasing. Um,
Yes.
People pleasing is a big one for me, especially around that kindness piece. We
Yeah.
think being kind, it means pleasing people all the time, but I'm fast learning.
Yeah.
That's not the case. So those are my few. I'm seeing
Thank
some
you.
others in here: imposter syndrome, people pleasing, self-doubt, inner critic. Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of things.
Lots of things. Absolutely. Thank you everyone for being so honest. This is the important part. When we name it, we can do something about it. The next thing, okay, how far I drift. When you're off course, what do others get? What do others experience in you? So, does your voice change when you're tired? What happens when you feel threatened or overwhelmed? And what's it like to be on the receiving end of that? So, what do you think people experience in you when you're pulled off course and when you're drifting a little bit? All right, so my example there, we had a perfect example this morning. Het and I, over a cuppa this morning, decided to go into the office today, bit of a snapping match, purely because we are both exhausted because we haven't had very much sleep last night. So when I'm tired, I'm not the approachable person I want to be at
Mm.
all. I'm irritable. I'm short. I'm snappy. Sometimes you get nothing from me. I completely withdraw. I'll just stop talking to anybody. So that's what happens when I drift. Or if I feel threatened or overwhelmed, my armor comes right up, quoting sort of Brene Brown with her armor, and that's what happens to me. I'll become very defensive, and others won't experience the best version of me at all. Anything from you, Lucy?
Yeah, I get very stubborn. I don't spend the time listening either. Like I don't want to know, like you say. Um, I get very unclear on my communication as well, which is not helpful. Short, poor tone of voice. And like you say, I shut down, so I'm not good at exploring new opportunities or new ideas because I don't want to know. And I can see a few folk here saying things like I may keep quiet, keep my head down, not go in the room as much. Irritable, defensive, don't follow up on commitments, feel very flat. Just hear myself saying I'm very busy, might get defensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, withdraw. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks for getting involved in this.
So honest.
Yeah, thanks for your vulnerability. It's important. So okay, so we know what happens, and often we don't think about that. We don't think about the impact. So we know that we're tired, but we don't actually think about the impact. So again, when we're talking about leading ourselves first, imagine if we are in a situation where we're making redundancies. Okay, and I've had to be in that situation before, where I've been the person doing that. We want to be approachable, we want to be caring, we want to be kind, we want to be present. But actually, we're knackered because we're doing all sorts of other things. We've got a million tabs open in our brain. We've got fear. We've got imposter syndrome. What is the person on the other side of the conversation experiencing from us in that moment? Are they getting the most kind, the most caring version of us in that moment? Likely not, because we've drifted. Okay, it's why this is important. So then let's think about habits. So again, if you've spent more than 5 seconds talking to me, I'm obsessed with habits. We've got a program called the Culture Habit. And the reason why we have this is because there are very small things that we can do that can make a big disproportionate impact. All right. So, what are the habits that bring you home? That place where you want to be. This is about deliberate moves. It's about practices that you know steady you, the boundaries that protect your thinking, and the things that anchor you when it counts. So, I'm going to ask you at the end of the session, as a spoiler, to think about design and your sort of next 30 days of leadership habits. But let's have a think about it now. What are the things that you need? I know I need time outside. I cannot be in the same place all the time. If I've not been for a walk for a couple of days, I notice it. My mental health notices it. My well-being notices it. I journal, so I'm a very outward processor, an external processor. So I need to get things out in the open. I can't, otherwise I'll ruminate. So these are things that sort of anchor me. Um, Also, again, simple things like hydration. Sometimes I can find it very easy to be attached to my laptop for the whole day and not lift my head up, not stop for a drink, nothing like that. It's very easy for me to slip into that. Now, those three things, getting outside for a walk, making sure I'm hydrated, and journaling seem like very small things, and they are until I don't do them. And when I don't do them, the version of me that I want to be, the version that I want to show to people, the people how I want people to experience me, if I don't do those things, that person doesn't exist. So, what I want you to think about as we go through the session is what are the small habits that bring you home? What are the smallest possible things that you can do to lead yourself first? Lucy, I know that you've been working on this. What have you got?
Yeah, and I think what you said was key. They're very small things. I think everyone, I can see Donna in the chat saying walking the cliffs, baking. They're very easy to dismiss because they're so small. And I think this session did such a good job of recentering that in actually, even though they're small, they make such a big difference. So for me, getting outside is one, running. I wrote down as well, good bedtime. That's very easy to slip when you want to fit everything into your day. And vegetables.
Yeah,
Fruit and veggies is the same. My hydration is usually okay, but fruit and veggies is the first thing to slip when it's busy, and they make such a difference. Even just psychologically, just knowing that you fed yourself well, you feel a little bit more on top of things. So yeah, getting outside, running, vegetables, and good bedtime.
love it.
All the basics, but very
Yeah.
important.
That's the thing. It's the basics, but the basics are often the things that go out the window. So again, at the end of the session, I'm going to challenge you all to do a 30-day test, a 30-day experiment of adding these small things back in, because again, small things, easy to do, easy not to do, have a disproportionate impact in a positive way. All right. So hopefully that exercise was useful. Please take it, steal it, use it, whatever you want to do with it, revisit it, but it's really important. Okay. So For me, I think this is really important. Now, when we think of leadership, all right, we used to think of leadership being the loudest voice in the room. Okay, I'm seeing a definite shift here. All right. So the next decade of leadership will not belong to the loudest leaders. It will belong to the most clear, most steady, and most regulated, especially in a world with relentless pace and change. Okay. When we're leading our people, they need to know that we are steady. That doesn't mean that we are robots at all. It means that we are regulated. It means that we're clear. It means that we're calm in situations. All right. So that's why this stuff is important, because if we lead ourselves first, we're able to achieve that. So I'm a big fan of this guy, Ryan Holiday. He writes a lot about stoicism. If that's not your thing, he's just got lots of generally great stuff. He's got a really good book called Stillness is Key. And he did an email which was 30 ways to become a better thinker in 2026. Now, at the beginning, I said that the quality of your leadership is often determined by the quality of your thinking. I don't know that we spend enough time thinking in a sort of quality way, often just reacting all the time. We're just making the easiest decision. But actually, I'm going to ask you to think about this thinking audit. And again, you don't need to do it now. You can do it after the session. But let's think about this. So Ryan Holiday says some of the things that we can do are these. Okay, take another think. What does that mean? Okay, question ourselves. Think about something again. When often again we're in reactive mode. We're not responding, we're reacting. So actually, how can we stop and think again? And how can we show the humility to take another think about something? Ask better questions. Curiosity is one of my favorite things. Do we ask enough good questions of ourselves and of others? Maybe not, because we're so busy moving from meeting to meeting. Anyone else have back-to-back meetings? I did it to us last week in Guernsey. I booked in 4 meetings, literally back to back. I definitely knew about it from Hettle after I'd done that. But then I wasn't in a position to ask better questions, because actually what I was doing is jumping from meeting to meeting. Our brains can't really cope with that. Ego is the enemy. He's got a book called this. I recommend that as well. And I found this on the back of Culture Camp. All right. So again, I literally text Hetzel and Lois the next day saying, look, people are getting a bit excited about this. My ego needs to have a little check-in. So just letting you all know that I need to do that, because I can very easily become very excited. Seek disagreement. This is the most important thing here. Who in your life is a positive disruptor? Who do you go to who will disagree with you? When we're tired, when we're irritable, when we're knackered, when we've got fatigue, we're not actually seeking disagreement. And that is impacting the quality of our thinking, impacting the quality of our cultures and our organizations. So who in your life do you go to seek disagreement? Who do you know will give you a different view? Sometimes Lucy is this partner for me. So we'll often have conversations. I'll send an email to Lucy, can you have a little look at that for me? Because I know she's going to come back and say, actually, I'd do it this way. I don't send Lucy an email because she's going to agree with me. Okay, that's ego based. I do it because she's going to tell me the truth, because I value her opinion. Think about that. Watch your information diet is the last one I'll talk to here, just in terms of time. Again, we are in a world where there is relentless information available to us, and actually, a lot of it isn't the most pleasant. It's important that we understand what's going on in the world, but actually, we also have to protect the information that we're consuming. So think about when you get up in the morning. Does anybody else doom scroll as soon as they wake up? I've definitely got that. I had that habit before that I've thankfully kicked away. But what are we consuming? Are we consuming things that are doom and gloom? Are we consuming things that are optimistic and positive? It's really important for our outlook. That's why Culture Camp is called the Day for Brave and Optimistic Leaders. We don't want to talk about all the things that are going wrong. There's enough of people talking about that. But how often are we taking on information that will help us grow, that will be positive for us? So think about those different things. And again, I'd encourage you to think about what you neglect most. Okay. So again, for me, sometimes again, if I'm busy, I'll maybe I won't seek disagreement. Maybe I'll just go for the easy answer. But when I'm the best version of me, I'm constantly looking to improve, constantly looking for 1%. So I will seek disagreement. So that's just something for you to think about again, maybe after the session. The sort of final part of the sort of content here, for the next sort of 10 minutes or so, is going to be about emotional regulation and emotional maturity. Um, like I said before, that one of the things for me that I think about a lot now is regulation. If I'm regulated, if I feel steady, if I feel clear, if my nervous system's in check, then I'm in a much better place to deal with some of the really difficult things people come to me with. I remember going back again to being a lawyer, and people were coming to me at the worst moments of their lives. And then when I went to the people space, it was very similar, to be honest. And the quality of my response to that person, the ability to hold space and listen and be in empathy, depended on my own regulation. Now, again, this is not something I would just even thought about 10 years ago. Now it's something I think about constantly. So leaders set the tone for regulation. So, okay, so I'm sure you've been around people in the past who have been able to dictate the room by how they react. So we used to have somebody who managed us years ago when I was very, very young lawyer. And she'd set the tone before she'd even come in the door. All right. So we used to have a U-shaped office, sort of horseshoe shape. And as soon as the door opened, we'd listen and we think, is she laughing or didn't she say anything? If she was laughing, our whole experience today changed. We thought, oh, we're all right here. This is all good. If she didn't make a noise or didn't make any sort of sound, we thought, oh, we're in for it today. So she completely set the tone for the regulation of the office, and we all do this. I do it. Sometimes my excitement can turn into chaos for our team of heart leadership. So sometimes what we think is a positive experience actually can be quite harmful for the rest of the team. But I want you to think about this question. When you're under pressure, how old are you? Now, I'm sure you've all heard about inner child and all that kind of work, and how actually we are often just children knocking about in adult bodies. But interestingly, I see some people in boardrooms who turn into absolute 2-year-olds when they're under pressure. I've seen leadership teams, and I'm thinking, wow, I've seen this in the playground with my nephews. But sometimes people turn really wise and sage and actually put 30 years on themselves when they're under pressure because that's how they react. But a lot of people, again, are wandering around dysregulated and we're actually not responding, again, responding being the key word, as our most mature selves. What we are doing is reacting like kids. So it's an interesting question, I think, to reflect on. And again, for me, if I'm under pressure, that can two things can happen. One thing, I can be very, very excited and I love pressure, and definitely the child in me comes out, the very excited child, and I have to be tempered by Hetzel. Or it could be a very worried child comes out actually, and a very sort of needing to protect myself, feeling like I'm on the schoolyard, feeling like I'm being attacked or bullied. And again, I have to notice when those things are happening. That's why regulation is so important. So I'd ask you to think about that. I want you to think about a question I asked you earlier when we did that sort of exercise around when we drift. I want you to think about and write down, and maybe write it in the chat so we can all keep ourselves accountable. What are your three non-negotiables that keep you steady, regulated, and clear? And the word non-negotiable is important, okay? Because what this shouldn't be is something that's negotiable, something that we let slip. But what are the three things, if you had to do anything, that keep you steady, that keep you regulated, and that keep you clear? What are they? They can be the smallest possible things. What are they? Lucy, have you got yours?
Yeah, I'm putting them in the chat as well. I've got two, I've definitely got two. So one's outside once a day for a walk or run. And the second one is one that I didn't actually have in my original list, but it's learning from others and social contact. Jade and I in my team talk about a lot about how we all work from home constantly. But actually the days where we get to kind of mix and speak to others and do that is we get a lot from it, and it helps really kind of keep us steady and focused. And the other one is a tidy house.
Yeah,
And I'm seeing lots of others come in. It's working, cooking dinner for my family and walking my dogs, exercise and meditation, exercise, eat well, and sleep, That's very similar to the ones I said earlier, Louise. I think we're two peas in a pod. Exercise, walking dog, ensuring I schedule in being alone for some time a week. Yes, alone time is
Alone time's
such a
key.
big one. Taking a lunch hour, big nods from me there. Walk with my dog. Gosh, there's a big doggy contingent in this webinar today. I love
Yes,
that.
excellent.
Uh, I need to see everyone's doggy pictures after, please.
Yes.
Interactions with people, adequate hydration, ensuring I have time for myself, exercise, being outdoors, tidying up, another tidy person, chat with best friends, shopping. Yeah, best friends are so important as well. Oh, working on my motorbike.
Nice.
That's a new one. That's a great one. Taking a lunch hour, exercise. Taking a lunch hour is coming up a lot, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, often we skip a lunch hour. I've been
Mm,
definitely guilty of this, so I'm not sitting here sort of preaching and saying that I'm perfect. I'm not. Um, and I have to make sure I do it. And this is what I said before. I wake up in the morning and think, where am I getting these steps in today? Where am I getting outside for a walk? That's why a lunch hour is so important, purely for clarity of thought as well.
mm,
Just to make sure you're taking a step away. Your brain needs that. Again, I mentioned Naomi before, who spoke at Culture Camp, and she's speaking at Guernsey Culture Camp, and she talks about designing for the brain. These things aren't just nice to haves. These things are how we optimize performance. So if you're someone like me who has maybe thought, oh, in the past, not now, oh, well-being, yeah, okay, that's for somebody else. For me, these things are essential for me to be able to do my job well. Are literally essential for me to do it. And if I don't do it, then I know. So for me, if I'm not looking after myself and I start having seizures, then I can't work and I therefore can't pay the mortgage. So it's literally essential to how I run my business. And I think that has to be the shift. We have to stop seeing leading ourselves first as a nice to have. It has to be a business essential. Okay, not just for you on the call, but for everybody. We want people to be high performing. Actually, how we make sure that's sustainable. So you've got your non-negotiables. What I would ask you to think about is what is the smallest version of this that you can do? Okay, so I've been very interested in James Clear and his work, Atomic Habits, and things like that. And sometimes he says, if you can't do the full workout, for example, can you do 5 minutes? Can you do 5 push-ups? If you want to go for an hour-long walk and you can't, for whatever reason, can you go for 5 minutes? So you're still putting a tick on the day, but actually you're reducing the scope. But you're still doing it. All right. So with your three non-negotiables, I had somebody who was on a program recently, and she was saying that actually she can't fit a half an hour workout because of other things she's got on. But she was saying after doing this session, Lead Yourself First, that she takes 5 minutes between meetings and lifts a kettlebell. And actually, at the end of the day, here's your 20 minutes. Okay. So it doesn't have to be a big thing, but she is intentionally doing it and she's experimented on it. And then the outcome of the experiment, that she feels much better. Same with going for a walk. Maybe it just needs to be 5 minutes at lunchtime, but it's something where you're sort of voting for yourself. Okay.
mm,
Now, when you know you're non-negotiable, can you communicate those things to someone today? Now, the reason I ask this is because sometimes if we're feeling dysregulated and we're feeling very stressed, we don't know what we need in that moment. Okay? We simply cannot communicate it. So, when we're feeling good, when we're feeling regulated, when we're feeling clear, tell somebody else, look, when I get like this is what I need. Okay? So someone is able to help you. An example from me. I know I've got a tendency to ruminate. Okay, so things will go round and round my head like a little roundabout, and I don't know where the exit is. But luckily, Hettle does. So what she knows, because I've told her, is if I get into that space, she puts the lead on our Labrador and puts that lead in my hand. I therefore have to go out, or she'll say to me, "Go to Tesco and go and get me some milk," or what she'll say something, because she knows, because I've told her, a change in environment changed the rumination for me. In the moment that I'm very dysregulated, I'm not telling you what I need. I don't know. My brain is trying to survive. So I just simply can't tell you. That's why it's important to tell somebody else. It could be your colleague who works next to you. It could be your family at home. It could be your best friend. It could be anybody at all. Tell them when you're feeling good what you need when you're not. Okay? Because again, in that moment, you just simply won't know it. So that's just something I'd ask you to take away as well. So we're coming to the sort of end, and we'll take some questions. But leading yourself by design is really important. All right. Sometimes we just leave these things to chance and we think, oh, well, maybe I'll fit these things in. It doesn't work like that. You have to design it in. All right. We have to make it non negotiable. And again, if you've taken anything from the whole sort of 40 minutes I've been talking to you, this is in service and in benefit of other people as well. So if we are leading ourselves first, we are able to do our jobs better. Okay. So I want you to think about this. So, based on everything we've thought about this morning, what might your 30-day leadership habit discipline look like? Okay, I'll give you a couple of examples. It could be one regulation practice. It could be that you pause before responding. I have a big post-it note with pause on my laptop. It could be walking before difficult conversations. It could be, this is what I think about all the time, how does well-being fuel performance? I've had to trick my brain that this well-being thing's a good idea because I think about it in a performance way, because the only way to get my brain to stop working and to put myself first. Okay, so we're still in the early stages of that experiment. And it could be that you have one thinking discipline. Okay, that could be 30 minutes without meetings in a day. It could be that you seek dissent. It could be that you find yourself a positive disruptor. It could be that you write something down before deciding. So any of those things, but I would like you to make a note, and again, you could revisit after the session, but think about what might that look like. And then I would encourage you to experiment with it. Okay, so Lucy mentioned before, she's been on one of my programs, and what I do at the end when we meet monthly is ask, what did you do in the last month? So they've got a 30-day discipline the experiment to conduct. All right. Again, this is the smallest possible thing that you can do. It doesn't have to be massive, it's the smallest thing. But do yourself a favor, experiment with it. If you fail, all right, that is good data. All right, Lucy talks about this a lot, about how we don't use failure enough as data. But if you don't get it, that's good data because you'll understand where you need to pivot. But I pretty much guarantee, and again, I'm very happy. If I'm wrong, I'll give you a free workshop. All right, I'm holding you to that. But at the end of 30 days, if you have tried to lead yourself first every day in a very small way, you will notice a disproportionately big impact. All right. So that's my challenge to you. And you've just heard me say it, and it's on a recording as well. If you don't feel any better for it at all, in any way, shape, or form, you get a free workshop from me. All right. Probably going to be quite busy, aren't I? So have a think about that. So look, that's the end of the sort of content bit of the session here. Obviously, we'll have a chat now and have some questions. There's a QR that goes to our website if you want to know what we do at Heart Leadership, and if you want to find out about Culture Camp or anything like that, then very happy for you to be in touch. You can use the hello email address there or replace hello with Gemma, and you can come straight to me. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Jem. That was so fab. I think the 30-day commitments that I made when I did the program was run walk every morning for at least 30 minutes. I've definitely got outside more. I don't know, it was definitely every day in that first 30 days, but that was a big one. And another one was just taking an hour to plan my week, which made such a difference to me. And you gave me the tip of the do not drop list, which I still do have a do not drop list now because I was finding my to-do list was kind of growing arms and legs, everything was getting bumped down, there was no priorities. So those two things really changed things for me. I don't know if anyone in the chat has got any thoughts or ideas for what they're gonna commit to in the next 30 days. But if you don't have them now, I mean, it would be lovely to hear them now. But if you don't have them now, definitely share them with us in email or LinkedIn. We really do love to hear these. And I haven't seen any questions come in, but does anyone have any questions? Obviously, we talked before, Gemini, about sometimes these sessions there's so much to take away and think about. There's not always questions, but we're really happy to have some questions. One thing I will mention were before, I don't know, my few takeaways from the session, before we kind of just check in on the questions, is the information diet for me. I remember starring it. I actually have it starred and highlighted. That was such a huge piece for me because I think my background has always been in like the PR and comms space, so it's drilled into us from day dot that like you need to be on the news every day, you need to be checking all angles, you need to be reading up on stories, very aware of what's going on in the moment. And I hadn't quite realized that that isn't normal, that taking in of all that news, taking in of what's going on social media, what the trends are, it becomes such a part of your day, you don't realize quite how that's feeding your brain. So I don't check the news first thing anymore, and it's made such a difference to how I approach the day. And I think the second thing, which you mentioned as well, was just because you haven't been able to do that full commitment in the day doesn't mean you can't do something. I've always been very bad at kind of throwing away the day or throwing away the week because it hasn't quite started off the way I wanted. And one of the things that usually goes first for me is walks and steps. So what I actually do now is I have 3 loops around where I live in Manchester, and I know how many steps each loop gives me. So I know how long they take, and that's just kind of, I need that kind of mental calculation. So I have my 3K loop, I have my 5K loop, and I have my 10K loop. And that for me, then I know kind of how I can fit those into my day and get those steps. And we're seeing some other bits come in here. Going to commit to keeping the house tidy. Apparently, it's very strange, but the family will be happy. It's prompted by other people suggesting this as a non-negotiable. I absolutely love that, Julie. Jen said getting outside every day. I like the idea of, can you just do 5 minutes? Deleting the social apps. That's a great commitment. I've been thinking about it, but now feels like the right time. And Zoe said, really made me think about how I need to treat myself in my daily life like I do my job, prioritizing scheduling, making sure the things get done that are important. Oh, I love that.
Can I just mention something on the just can it just be 5 minutes? So just a quick story from me. So I have asthma, quite severe asthma. So sometimes even walking a loop has caused me, especially when I lived in Liverpool when it was very sort of lots of pollution in the air.
Yeah.
And I would really struggle to sort of run or walk, anything like that. And I just started committing to, can I just do 5 minutes? Can I just do 5 minutes this walk? And then we went on holiday to Madeira, and our hotel was at the top of a really steep hill. And it wasn't until I got to the top of that hill, and the hill said to me, "Do you realize that you've just been walking up that without any problem, no inhaler, and talking to me as well?" So the just 5 minutes has had a significant impact on my health and on my lungs and on my breathing. Now, we went for a jog a few days ago. That would have been unheard of for me. Um, no problem at all. No need for an inhaler, nothing at all. And that is because I just had 5 minutes. So that's a genuinely a true story. So those 5 minutes have turned to 10 minutes, which is 15, and all the rest of it, because I'm now used to it and I enjoy it and prioritize it. But even the just 5 minutes can have, again, a disproportionately big impact. And when it comes to, I know a lot of you are in the people and culture space who are on this call now. The reason we call the culture habit is because often the smallest thing you can do can be the biggest thing. Okay. And when we work in workplace culture, we often think we need to do big transformational programs. Actually, that doesn't work if the habits underneath aren't sustaining. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can talk to your people about doing small things in moments that already exist, and for you on this session now, small things in moments that already exist, what can you do? 5 minutes. I think that's massive, both for you and your own well-being, but also from your workplaces with a little bit of a different angle on culture.
No, I love that. That 5 minutes, it makes such a difference. Got Donna here as well saying read something positive before bed, which I think is such a lovely one. And lots of folk committing to like meditations as well. Jess has said commit to calm meditation before I even leave my bed, which is a great one. That kind of replacing, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but replacing a doom scroll or something with a meditation is a great one. That would be where I would be finding the time for that. Um, but yeah, it amazes me that 5 minutes can make such a difference. I saw a kind of, I guess, a reverse thought on that was if you're ever putting off chores, time yourself doing it because you'll be surprised how little time they take. And that 5 minutes is literally oftentimes like a whole kitchen for me is cleared because I've managed to kind of do the dishwasher, restack it, get the surfaces done. Um, and that's only 5 minutes, whereas in my head that's like a half an hour job. But
Yeah.
actually sometimes, and that's kind of, I'm quite a processized structured person, as you can tell, because I've also got my loops where I know exactly how many steps I can do in each one. But having that breakdown and having that evidence for me is really important to know, okay, I can do it in just that 5 minutes and it does make a difference. So yeah, I've seen no questions come through, just lovely words. That's amazing. Everyone's really pleased for you on the
Oh, got a question now?
On it. Yeah, I doom scroll every morning and every night before bed. How do you kick that habit without having the FOMO fear? You did, you've just kit ditched that, haven't you? So,
Yeah, it's so I used to doom scroll, but also I'd be straight on my emails. And again, it was a mindset shift for me.
mm,
So I started thinking, okay, I'm waking up and I'm being reactive to the world around me, and I'm not going to do that. One of the things that you could do is keep your phone in a different room. I know that puts the absolute fear of God into people sometimes. Um, for a variety of reasons. But one of the ways you could do it is just get an old-fashioned alarm clock and get up. I have two alarm clocks in the shape of Ocho and Mango, so I don't even have to look at my phone in the morning now. Um, so I think for me, it's again done it. For me, it's been about trying to optimize my own performance. So I know that if I start getting down into a doom scroll before sleep, I'm not going to sleep well, and I know I need to prioritize sleep. And I backed it up with evidence. Again, with everything that we've talked about here, I've experimented on all of it. And some things don't work for me and some things do. So I think it's just a case, Donna, of testing yourself and thinking, okay, what things can I do to try and kick this? What small things? Could it be that you doom scroll for 5 minutes rather than 15? Give yourself a timer, literally, and say, do you know what? I'm going to indulge myself for 5 minutes and then I'm done. And actually, I'm going to replace that 10 minutes with reading a book, a physical book, or I'm going to do it with listening to a sleep story or a calm, a meditation or whatever it is. So, what again I would say is when you're trying to break a habit, it's trying to put friction in there. So, how can you put friction? For me, it would be not having my phone in my room. I've
mm.
now developed, again, because I now think about how I'm opening up my eyes, how I'm approaching the day. I don't doom scroll now. And again, I found that if I didn't go and do steps before I open my laptop, I wouldn't do it. So again, for me, that's the probably the first thing that I do. This is all through trial and error. So again, experiment on it. Experiment with actually how can I try a few different things to stop me kicking this habit. But the main thing to do is to create some friction between that and the habit.
I love that. And I've heard a few people actually start to move towards using their mobile phone like we used to have landlines. So just leaving it plugged in, leaving it in the same place, and just treating it very much like the landlines that we used to have. So they're not follow because that was one thing they see the phones follow us around the house now when they never used to. And they're with us all the time. So yeah, there's lots of thanks coming in. Makes so much sense when it's explained like this. We're only human. Yes, Zoe, the session has been recorded and we'll send it out after. So do feel free to send it around. And if you do think it would be useful to have Gem in-house doing some of these sessions for yourselves, she does a whole load of amazing things. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the amazing work that Gem does. And Donna's saying, thanks so much for the feedback, Gem. That's a great idea to cut down and replace with something positive. So that seems um, like hopefully, Donna, that you'll be well on course for cutting down on that doom scrolling. I think that's kind of probably all we've got time for today, Gem. Is there anything you wanted to just share to finish on?
No,
I hope.
again, just to summarize what we've said there, leading yourself first is not just a nice to have. You need it to be able to do your job well, or to be do your parenting well, or whatever it might be. So thinking about this from an organizational perspective, if we have people who are well, who are feeling more recharged, regulated, and steady, they'll be able to do their best work, including you. So think about this as not a nice to have, but actually being key to performance. If that's the way your brain works, that's certainly how it's got me. And again, small habits. What can you do in 5 minutes? What is the smallest thing that you can do to look after yourself today? And experiment with that for 30 days, see how it goes.
Oh, I love that so much. So I'm just going to pop a couple of polls live just to see where you're at in terms of surveys. I did a very bad job of introducing us at the start, but we do survey software for those of you that don't know Strive. So just to get a feel for where you're at with the surveys, and then I'll pop another one live just after that. Jem, thank you so much. Genuinely, that was one of those sessions where I was definitely taking notes for myself as well. I've already done this once, but I just it's brought a lot of stuff back up for me that I know I can start practicing again and bringing into those 1%. I can see a lot of thanks here. I'm off out for my daily fix the outdoors. Thank you so much, Jen. The session has definitely helped me reflect, and I'm ready for my next 30 days. See you at Coach Camp Guernsey. See you there, Veronique. Looking forward to it. whilst I finish off, we're just, I guess, just make sure you're taking away that one thing. Jem set you a few other tasks, but I think just that one thing, that 5 minutes will make such a difference. And a huge thank you for joining us today. The questions, the chat, it's been brilliant. It's been so lovely to watch you all connect as well. And it's clear this topic has really hit home for a lot of people. There's something a little bit ironic about a room full of people who spend their day looking after others, sitting quietly, kind of wondering who will look after those. But I think we've made a big difference today and a little step forward towards changing that. I hope you all feel a little more seen, and I hope a little bit more equipped to lead yourselves first. A few things before you go: we'll send out the recording and any resources we've mentioned in the follow-up email, links for Culture Camp, etc. And to Gem, please do connect with her on LinkedIn. She shares a lot of this brilliant thinking over on LinkedIn, so we'll make sure we put her details in the chat now. Well worth a connection there. And if you do have any follow-up messages or questions, Gem is more than welcome to answer them. Of course, you're more than welcome to answer them. She will be more than happy, I think is what I was
Oh.
trying to say. I do not own her. She is her own person. She can do what she needs. um, and if today resonated and you want to explore maybe Gem's heart leadership courses, the culture camps, employee listening and feedback tools, as well for us, we'd love to show you kind of what Strive does. So do keep an eye out for that link too in the follow up as well. And one small ask: if today gave you something useful, please do share it. Tag someone who maybe needed to hear it, send them the recording. All of these little nudges, like we've discussed the whole way through, really add up to something amazing. Um, Thanks so much. And I can see someone's looking for the link. Sonia, I think it might just be Gem's LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'll put it in
When,
again, see if that works.
if not, it will be in the follow-up email. That one seems to be working for me. Thank you so much, Gem. Thanks,
My
everyone.
pleasure.
I'm going to end the webinar now. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you for the next one very soon.
Take
Bye
care,
bye.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.